And this is where you get to play a role with the Slido app and fire some questions up. They will come to me on these screens in real virtual reality. Now, the premise that we were set by the organizers, are banks still going to be around in 2030, I think is probably something that none of you are going to be worried about seriously. But some of the stuff that I was talking about, some of the stuff that people are talking about in meetings here is certainly going to change the nature of how customers, but also how business partners deal with banks. Cezary, at mBank, you've created, I think, the 4th largest bank here for assets and loans, and it's growing and growing and growing and growing. Where do you see things going in the next 13, 14 years?
Well, by that time I will be retired, and I think that there was a lot of talk about electric cars, autonomous cars. Hopefully, I will be using the autonomous electric car, not electric chair. That's something what I'm focused on. But I would say, talking about the banking industry, I'm relatively optimistic. I believe that what's coming is more focus on the customer needs and better understanding of the customer behaviors. I would say all these technologies help the banks really to understand better what is on the client's mind, what is the most painful for the client. The bank of the future, from my perspective, is the bank which takes care of your payments holistically. I think that all the fintech solutions, in my opinion, they are addressing pieces of the true holistic needs of the clients. And I believe that this still the advantage of the banking industry and individual banks is coming out of the fact that there is still trust, which we have to very much focus and we have to rebuild, because the credibility of the banking sector has been significantly endangered during the crisis. But I would say slowly is recovering. Regulation to some extent helps. And I think also the change in the mindset of the bankers.
And do you see any concern, some of these new technologies, these startups coming along with their blockchain solutions, and some of them are claiming they're going to do away with the need for a bank like mBank?
Well, you can approach this issue from two different angles. Partly this is a cost play for the banks, like chatbots. We at mBank, we are using already experimentally the bot chat, which was a kind of a byproduct. So many of the requests which are being chatted by our younger clientele are being addressed by the chatbot. We collected a number of conversations. I think currently it's more than 1 million, and we are building up out of this regular answers for the time being for more simplified requests. I believe that at some point video will come, but this is something what people have to familiarize. For the time being, as the data processing on video is growing, I would say very fastly, but I think that it's mostly driven by the entertaining. But at some point it will come also to the banking sector.
Now, Szymek, you have a new job. You've been acting CEO at BNP Paribas since November the 1st, I think.
That's
so you're
correct.
Starting to think about how you're going to guide this bank over the next decade, 2 decades. So you're a bank with almost 500 branches, fairly traditional approach. When you think through how these technologies are going to change the nature of the business and which ones you need to adopt, what do you put high up on your list?
Let me talk a little bit about the branch network. We indeed have almost 500 traditional branches. We've got several tens of small units in shopping malls, which is many times more than some of the larger banks than we are. And if I think ahead, and I'm not planning to retire in the next 12 or 15 or maybe even 20 years, I believe that branches still be around. There will be different branches, there will be fewer of them, and they will play a completely different role than today. The traditional branch has been built around servicing customers and operational things that people may wish to do in a physical location. over time, the servicing will disappear. Branches will not provide any transactional service to customers. There will be an advisory piece, but fundamentally, as far as I'm concerned, branches will be there to keep trust towards banks high and to basically play a marketing role.
And more generally, where do you think you're going to need to put investment to make the bank as competitive as some of the fast-growing startups?
There are quite several areas. We have actually emerged on a transformation path, which is a family of over 100 different projects, many linked to technology and upgrading our infrastructure. But I'll pick only one. I believe we and probably many other banks have to invest a lot into internal processes. The processes have to be lighter, faster, digitalized, paperless, truly paperless, and that will make the cost base lower, the customer experience better, and the bank will be a better place for the people who will not have to deal with the complexity of processes that they have to deal with now.
So Szymon, you are a man rethinking processes. You are building a digital bank at Bank Polski. You're the agent of transition, of change. Your other panelists seem to be suggesting that it's going to be life as usual, relatively speaking, with a few minor changes. If you're going to make sure Bank Polski is in a dominant position in a decade, how radically are you thinking?
For PKO BP, I mean, basically the game is twofold. I mean, we are on a path to accelerate our digital revolution with clients. I think we just turned 2 million mobile clients, which makes us, the largest mobile bank right now, and we are growing with triple digits, year over year in that area. And definitely, making our clients digitally enabled, mobile enabled is one of the key pillars of our strategy. The other one being a large bank, large universal banks, we need to reap all the fruits that are coming from the new technologies. I mean, therefore, what we do on the other side of the bank, so internally, I mean, we test a lot of technologies. I mean, we have already our own testing environment for blockchain, and we basically run a number of proof of concept, and we look for opportunities to improve internally. So questions regarding blockchain technology for us, I mean, the first idea is around improving internal processes. I mean, that's where we see value for us in investing and finding potential proof of concept that we could scale up later on. The same applies to chatbots and RPAs. This is, again, with the scale of our operations, it gives us enormous opportunity to be a lighter bank and with better cost level. Finally, we need to also take the advantage of our scale. In our strategy, we believe that we can be a broader platform for our clients. So already our API, is in test, and we will be able to hook in both fintechs as well as our own spin-offs into an ecosystem of solutions. Because I'm coming back to what Cezary just said. I mean, bank will need to refigure how they are more relevant for clients. More personal, but also more relevant. And that relevance might come from thinking much more broader about the needs of clients. I mean, historically, we've been thinking about, clients needs a mortgage. I mean, no one needs a mortgage. Someone needs a house. And I think, that broader perspective, more client-centric perspectives, gives you opportunity to deliver more value to clients, also in terms of advice. And for that, I mean, you need to be able to offer it. Okay. And it's not always going to be a banking product.
Is ING going to be a banking product in the next decade? Are you working actively with startups, and where do startups fit in?
We are working actively with some startups because we believe that the bank itself is not agile enough to provide certain types of services that are created by these tiny little companies which are far more flexible and far more efficient in creation of the new technological advances. And we hope that this will benefit for us in the future. But the example is that we invested in a company in Czech Republic called Twisto. But and there are some other examples. ING bought globally, I think, 135 fintech companies trying to search for some kind of a breakthrough. However, to be honest, excuse me?
Have you found the breakthrough yet?
No, we didn't find a breakthrough, and I think I'm less optimistic about the future of banking, and especially about 2030, because 2030 is 13 years from now. We were wrong so far already many times. Like 5 years ago, everybody said that the banking is dead. Now everybody is saying that the banking is reviving. I think again we'll be having few waves. But the underlying question will be whether it will be still needed in the form of the services that we are providing, because the disintermediation is causing the effect that clients are searching for financial services at the moment when they complete the transaction. So for instance, they complete the purchase online in internet, and they're not interested whether this is financed by the bank or this is financed by whoever else. They just want to have a nice experience. So if we will be able to be, and I will use this buzzword, this more agile as a gigantic institutions, because you quote the size, and I think the size matters, but it can be also an obstacle to move forward. If we'll be able to find the ways that we are somehow in the stream of providing services, but not necessarily, we don't call this banking or something like we call this up till now, then we'll be able to move forward. If not, will be obsolete.
And what do you take to Maciej's question? Is the blockchain and the cryptocurrencies a threat to how banks like ING will operate?
The blockchain is an opportunity, but it all depends on all of us, and not only on of us, but it depends on the banking sector worldwide. So the fact that we'll be able to construct something that will be all members and nobody will be trying to impose the dominating features. For instance, in trade finance, I think it can be a way forward, because this business is very traditional still, and there should be some breakthrough, and blockchain is offering this. Bitcoins, I disbelieve. I think this is a big speculation, and that will be an issue in the moment. Is a threat.
Yeah. I mean, look, we all probably share the idea that our game will be about trust and confidence of clients towards banks. So, Bitcoins and all the ICOs are probably not going to be around for us as something meaningful, because it's too much speculative, right? But think about blockchain for a moment. I mean, okay, as I said, we are looking for ways to improve our internal processes. I think it's going to take a while in order to have a sort of a countrywide breakthrough, and that would require banks to engage in something we've done a couple of years ago, creating Polish payment standard. We came into a digital competition where we created a common standard, and only such standards can be meaningful when we talk about technologies like blockchain. So
is anybody on the stage actively using blockchain at the moment, or planning to in the next year or two?
Not us. We are waiting for the bigger to deliver.
Fully agreed.
I would say one have to be realistic. We cannot address at our stage, with the size of our market, and I would say individual institutions, to invest so heavily into not tested technologies. I would say mBank, which is seen like a digital bank, by many, I have to admit we are the followers. We are trying to, our skills are in getting into the technology, which is, I would say, maybe not the first wave, maybe the second, but tested. Otherwise, we will be experimenting and we'll be endangering, the money of our investors, and I think it's not justified.
So what about artificial intelligence in itself? Sergej's question, where do you see AI being applied in your banks at the moment? Is anybody?
As I said, I think that there are, when I come back to your question of, what will be the bank looking at 2030, it should be invisible for the client, but very important. And I would say there is on the back side of your head should be the assumption that someone takes care of your money. And I would say someone who will be able to position that way, not via the aggressive marketing, but building up the trust, convenience. And I would say I don't believe that the banks will be loved. Banks will be rather respected, and I would say organizing themselves towards the needs of the clients. And as I said, you don't want to spend time on mortgage, you don't want to spend time on your payments, whatever. It means the bank should provide the money, which smoothly, will clear your, I would say, scope of your responsibilities vis-à-vis the variety of providers.
I would add to that it's got to be done in a highly responsible way. So the times when banks would propose or push products that are inappropriate, I hope are gone, and that will really have client in the center and not necessarily aggressive budgets as the main driver of what we sell and deliver, and then seamless service. Nobody wants to sort of go back and complain and look for missing money or missing docs or anything of that sort. So quality of services, invisibility, reliability, and total trust. You don't want to worry that your money is gone missing overnight, as other things in the virtual space may. It's too much important and too serious.
What about the big tech companies?
If I can just add one point. I mean, when you look at even the giants like Alexa from Amazon, I mean, you see still a lot of flaws in these AI the solutions. So what I'm seeing, let's say, even from the global companies like Netflix, other guys, I mean, everyone is learning that, but the improvements are coming mostly in operations, in credit, and this is where you will see, the application of these solutions for first wave. Later on, you will see more of that AI revolution coming into relationship with clients, because you don't want to spoil it if it's not, at the highest level where you expect it.
How much of a threat to the big tech companies, the Googles, the Facebooks? They have data about your customers at a much greater scale than you have. They're starting to launch their own financial products. Is anybody here concerned about them?
I think that we are also having data about our clients, and we only need to learn how to use it, and basically in such a way that is responsible, as Przemek mentioned, because there is no space for mis-selling or utilization of some kind of, let's say, secret things that we possess. However, I would say that AI is already there, and we are using this in our operations already. Basically, we have many examples of granting loans or anything that you mentioned, Szymon. I mean, it's basically based on AI. It's a new buzzword which is used for calling the behavioral predictions, which you can call it AI, and to a certain extent they became more automated. Then you call them AI, it's because it's fashionable, but it's basically there. Robotics is also there. In the ING we are using, what I heard recently, 126 robots, which doesn't mean that they sit somewhere in the room, but they are plugged into the systems and they're processing things in a wiser way. So the thing that Google and Amazon has a gigantic scale, and you talk here to the 4 banks from the Polish market, which is very difficult for us to even imagine to compete with the Google on the global scale. However, we have also certain advantages there which we can use.
There are 2 more questions because we have to stop in a second. The moderator has the power, even on the blockchain.
Yes.
Vladimir asked a question that's had 27 upvotes, a regulatory question about what PSD2 is going to mean for the banks and customers, and is it going to work?
Well, on the PSD2, I have to admit that I'm not scared by what's coming. I think that there will be lots of attempts really to undermine our position, but that reminds me something what has happened with the deregulation of the telecom industry back in 2003, when everyone who had address books started the MVNO. MVNO was even our bank was MVNO, so. With 35,000 clients, with a virtual processing of the mobile. I have to say, there must be some, and we recently had some experiences also with the telecom industry. And I have to say, there is something very special which I'm not able to explain for the time being, that people associate particular words with the particular services and particular institutions. And my feeling is that, if things will be seamless, not visible to the client, and it will be very easy to execute, there is a danger. But I would say banking industry historically was very techy. The banks have been leading the technology. I'm not saying that we are leading the technology now, but I'm saying that, the adoption of technology in the banking sector is reasonably strong. As a consequence, I think all these initiatives which are to some extent present here, we will try to adopt. Many of them obviously will collapse. Many of them will be difficult to be implemented because of the regulatory issues, which are constraining us enormously at this stage. I would say we will be definitely progressing more if the regulation will be more flexible.
So that's to conclude a kind of confident and optimistic view from the stage. They don't seem too worried about the crypto kitties taking over.
I'm refraining from time to time. My colleague, on left knows this well. The glory for banking is gone, but we are still needed.
Banks have to be careful, have to work hard, have to improve, have to really take the customer in the center. So it's not that we are sitting here being arrogant and confident then that in 13 years doing nothing will still be powerful institutions. There is a lot of work to be done ahead.
Well, let's see what happens after you've had various meetings with the startups today. I'm sure there'll be some potential collaborations and you can learn from each other. Thank you, all of you, for your time. Thank you, Cezary, Szymon, Przemek, and Michał.
Fantastic.